Welcome to the web design recording for week 2. And you can see that week 2 goes from October 28th, which is Monday, to November 1st, which is Friday. So let's jump right into this. Okay, week 2. Week 2 is the elements of design in HTML unit. And you can see on Tuesday of the week your work. So you have the recording you're watching now and then the write-up. You have an invitations assignment, and I will post a recording for that. And then for Thursday, you have a Webmaster Role website assignment. I'll give you a template for that, and I'll have a recording for it. So this recording is just going to cover the lesson for the week, along with the Class Connect write-up ideas for that. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. And just to remind you of a few things, if you have yet to get started in the course, here's the Welcome and Getting Started information. Also, there's the Welcome and Getting Started recording right over here, the Getting Started write-up, introduce yourself activity, all those things you need to do to get started. Proper file names. Please, on all of your work, use the exact file name that the assignment tells you to do. Please do that, unless I give you a different file name. Assignment samples. These are going to be screenshots of what your work should look like. Nothing posted there yet, but those will be there to help you out with your work. Index lesson recordings. Of course, you can get the weekly recordings right here if you need to. The assignment directions. These are videos of me actually doing the work, so you can see how the work is done. Live Class Connect sessions, the recording for the weekly live sessions that I do. Then finally, under recent student questions, these are going to be common questions that have come up, and I'll answer them here. And then if you have a question about the course, go here to see if maybe your question's already been answered. All right, let's go down here into week 2 write-up. So here we go. All right, the week 2 write-up. As you've done before in the other write-ups, remember that you copy and paste all this into Word Processor program, answer the questions as you watch the recording, write your answers directly below each item. Then you copy and paste the whole thing into the Dropbox. You do not attach a file. So the process is you highlight the whole thing, right? Copy and paste into a Word Processor program, put the answers in, and then you copy and paste in the Dropbox. Now, one thing I would suggest is, even though you're copying and pasting into the Dropbox and not an attached file, go ahead and save the file. Save it as week 2 write-up. That way, if you ever have to go back to it, you'll have it. Don't just type it up and then delete the file and then not save it. You go ahead and save the file, even though you are just putting the stuff in the Dropbox. You can still have a saved file. All right, introduction section. Even though there are programs to help write web pages, why do you still study HTML? Let's look at introduction part. So the introduction part. Okay, the purpose of web design is to draw people to your site and to keep them at your site. Of course, that's for like business websites and things like that. But really, for general websites, you want to make it where people find useful information, and the look of the site is good and all of that. And websites are created with hypertext markup language called HTML. And hypertext means link. So really, it's a linking language. And markup means that they use special tags to make the web page show in your computer browsers. So that's what it's all about. Now, early on, programs were done just through coding, with HTML coding. And later on, we're going to use software that can do it, but still it's important to know about HTML coding. The reason it's important to know about HTML coding is that sometimes you might find it necessary to work directly with the code to achieve exactly what you want. So that's a reason to know something about HTML coding, even though most people don't code with HTML anymore, but that's why you want to know how to do that. So that's the basics. And in this unit, actually in sections 2 and 3, we're going to learn beginning HTML, editing code, zipping files, accessibility topics, using text effectively, cascading style sheets. So this is what we're going to do in sections 2 and 3 in this unit. Sections 4, 5, and 6 are going to cover this stuff. Remember what I've said before. I've changed up some assignments and points and such, so always go to the grade book. That will give you the most recent information. Okay, so let's move on. So this is section 1. Let's go back to our write-up. We can see that we answered that question, didn't we, about HTML. Okay, in section 1, how does a web browser work to allow you to see a web page? How can you see the code of any web page? When thinking about creating a website, what do layout and design depend on? List 6 bare minimum tags. Why must you zip folders? So we're going to answer all of those questions. All right, section 1, beginning HTML. Well, as we go through this, how does this all work? So you're searching on the web and you're using Internet Explorer or Firefox or Chrome or something like that. And the way it all works is that your browser, that software you use, it translates the HTML code into stuff that we can see. So it translates the code into web pages that you can see. That's essentially how web pages work. Now, if you want to view any code on a page, you click View and then the source for it. So I'm going to go down here and open up, just go into Internet Explorer. I'm just going to go to Internet Explorer here and watch at the top. I'm going to hit View, Source, and I can see the code for that website. Now, of course, most of that is gibberish to you. I mean, we don't really understand what all that means, but you can see it has an HTML start, a heading start, and all these different tags they're called. So that's doing it in Internet Explorer. That's just View and then View and then Source. Now if I go back to Chrome where I was showing our course, or if I go to Chrome, in Chrome I can right click and view frame source, and I get the code from part of a frame, not the whole page. So there are different ways that you can view different web pages. Back to Internet Explorer. Here we go. So view source is the way you can view the code of a page. And the great thing about that is you can see how pages are coded, and you can actually copy that code and use it. Now, the first step in designing your web page is you need to determine the purpose and the audience. And then you can lay out your page. So the layout and the design, it depends on the purpose and the audience. Who are you writing it for? That's what the purpose is. Like this one down here, the picture of a little school bell or something. That's a daycare center. This would be a website for medical. This would be party supplies, although we really can't tell from that picture. And this would be like a funeral home. You really can't tell from that picture either, can you? So it's kind of silly that they have you go do these. Maybe these are, see, those aren't even paid web pages that open up. So I'm not sure why they have those little sample pictures there. Okay, next. Now here's a video on starting your first web page. You're going to want to watch that because you need to do this work. You're going to go through these steps. You're going to copy all this code in. You're going to do everything they say here. You're going to save something as firstwebpage.html in your Unit 2 folder. Do all of these steps that they have you do here. All the way down, steps 6, 7, 8. Do all of those things. Now, one of the write-up questions says, what are the 8 codes that pages need to have? Well, these are the 8 codes right here. If you look at them, there's HTML. That starts a web page, and then here's the closing HTML because it has that slash on the end of it. Here's the heading code. You have to have a heading code. And then here's the ending heading code. You can see because it has a slash on it. You have to have a title code, and here's the title, ending title code, and the title goes between those things. Here's the starting body code. Here's the ending body code. Those are the codes. So for that Class Connect write-up question, what you can do is you can highlight all this stuff, and just take out these sentences when you paste it into your write-up, and then you'll have those 8 codes listed there. But those are the 8 codes that all web pages need to have. Again, you need to go through exactly all of these steps because you're practicing to create your own web page, your first web page. That's the name of it, and you're going to save it in your Unit 2 folder. It's your first web page. See how it works. And this reiterates down here the 8 types of codes: starting body, ending body, starting title, ending title, starting heading, ending heading, starting HTML, and then that doesn't show the ending HTML, but ending HTML. Okay, on this assignment, and I have a recording for this. This one you're going to take an invitation, like a party invitation, and you're going to edit it so it's your own, and I'll have a recording for that. Submitting web pages. Web pages need to be zipped, and what zipping does is it compresses and it sends everything together. So for that class connected write-up question, why do you need to zip files? You need to zip files so that all of the related files travel together. So all the related files stay together. That's why you zip them. So in the assignments, if it says to zip, make sure you zip it. And here's a video on how to zip. I'll also post a video that'll help you to zip files. Now this is the invitation assignment. Now you started it back there, about like here in part C, they had you start to do this. They had you do this in directions, save an image, and do all that stuff. And then in part E is where you actually finish it up. And I have, as I said, I have posted a recording on how to do all of this. So that's the first assignment you're going to turn in. Okay, now we go into the next section. Now let's go back to the write-up to see if we answered all those questions. Answered, 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 answered. Good, we answered all those. All right, section 2. What does web accessibility mean? Give 2 examples of what you should think about regarding the fonts and colors on a web page. What does it mean that cascading style sheet properties are reusable? What is the full code to tell the program you're defining a style? Explain what an internal style sheet is. Explain an external style sheet. So this is section 2. We'll answer all those questions. Okay, American Disabilities Act requires that governmental websites be accessible by everyone regardless of physical and mental handicaps. Now, personal websites and websites for businesses and such don't need to do that, don't need to be that, but government websites do need to be accessible. So just like buildings are accessible to handicapped people, well, websites need to be. There's no reason they should be cut out of exploring the web and doing different things, right? So web accessibility means that people with disabilities can use the web or use the web pages. And it talks about how it can include visual components, auditory, physical, all these types of things that can help people who have disabilities. But also, because of all these things that are done on web pages to make them more user-friendly for disabled people, they end up being more user-friendly for everyone, right? And when you talk about your audience, you need to think about it. Like right here, if you want to have a web page for kids, it might be lots of colors and things like that. Or if you want a more basic one, then you have just white or very light backgrounds. So there are different ways to do websites. Effective uses of text. So this is just showing you some of the different contrasts and different ways that text shows up. You can see some of these are really good and some of these are really bad, can't you? You also never want to have a black web page or a dark web page and then light writing, because if people print out the web page, they're going to use up so much ink and toner if they print a black page. So use of fonts and text size and colors are really important. And just some of the things here are 6 or 7 things to think about when choosing fonts and colors. That one Class Connect write-up question just says choose a couple of these. But think about some of these. Use just basic fonts, not fancy ones. Bold fonts can make a couple words stand out, but not everything. Italic is hard. Avoid that because it's hard to see on a computer screen. Different fonts should be limited to 2, just a couple of different fonts. You can change colors of the text. Here's a color chart you can take a look at. We'll look at that a little bit later. Make sure the colors can be seen in the background, that they don't bleed in or they get blurry. So you're just going to take a couple of these items and put them to answer that one Class Connect write-up question. CSS styling sheets. Now CSS, what that does is CSS is a way to enhance your pages, but they're reusable, which means instead of defining the properties of fonts, backgrounds, and everything every time, you just assign a CSS style, and you only have to use it one time. Create it one time, and you can keep using it and use it. So you create one style, and you keep using it. That's what a CSS is. And when you create styles, you can make different fonts, different colors, different spacing, and then those can be used many times on your website, and you'll see how we do that a little bit later. But there are different tags you can use. When you start to do a CSS, you must have this tag, because this tells the program, hey, I'm going to be doing CSS in a minute. So this command right here, that's the exact code you put in to start CSS. And you'll see that as we do it, this is an example of a CSS right here. This is a CSS called normal font. You'll see how these things work, and they always start with a period, you'll see. But this right here is the code that tells the computer you're going to be using cascading style sheets. Now internal style sheets you type directly on the page that you are making. So the internal style sheets go right on the page. So if you look down here, this is a web page, and right here it's saying, see this line? It's saying, hey, I'm creating styles, and it made a style called paragraph. So once it makes this style that has green writing, bolded, size 12, then all a person has to do is they just put the word paragraph in this format, and all the stuff after it would take on those effects. And you'll see how that works later when we'll practice with it a little bit. Now if you look down here, this has a bunch of different styles. It has a paragraph style, which is going to be green and all of that. And it has something called page title, which is another style. So you can have multiple styles when you do web pages. So this is having you do a little bit more work and do some practice on doing web pages using coding. So if you did all of this coding right in here, it should come up with a web page that looks like this. External style sheets. External style sheets are used for the whole multiple website. So internal are done just on the individual pages. External are used on the whole website, the whole multiple page website. So that's the difference between internal and external. And on external, you have a separate CSS file that you create. So on the internal, you create the CSS right inside the page. On external, you create a separate file. And we'll practice that. I'll put an activity together to practice this. That's the difference between internal and external. Now you get to an assignment called Webmaster Roles, and here's the explanation for the Webmaster Roles. And let's go back. I'm going to go back to the write-up, and let's see if we answered all these questions. We did answer all those questions. And then I have just a general question, 13. What do you have to do for the Webmaster Role assignment for this week? Well, I'm going to go right here back. Here's a Webmaster Role assignment, Webmaster Role website. And if you remember back in last week, you did just like a 1 or 2 paragraph thing where you research Webmaster Roles. Well, for this week, you're taking what you did last week, that Webmaster essay, and you're turning it into a web page. So that, and I'll have a recording for you for this. So that is actually the answer to this write-up right here. This write-up question, the last one. What do you do Webmaster Role assignment? What you do with that is you take your Webmaster Role essay from the previous week and you will turn it into a web page. So that answers this question right here. Okay, that's all that I have for you for this lesson recording, because again, lesson recordings are to help you complete the write-ups. So I did this lesson recording for you. You did the write-up, you submitted it, and then I have recordings on doing the invitation assignment, and I have a recording on the Webmaster Role assignment. And to remind you, those recordings are found right here under Assignment Directions. And I'll put the Webmaster Roles one in there also. So that's all I have for you. I look for your work coming in. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.